So here's the thing, it's bullshit because I keep trying to take Kai'Sa top lane, but nobody plays tanks in low elo solo queue, and so here I am trying to build Nashor's Tooth first, and it's full attack speed to get the.
I really wish this would stop.
And then.
Are we recording now?
It's full attack speed, and then all of a sudden I can't get the guy because he just runs me down.
Please, Ryan. Hello.
Hello, I would like to counter with my own game nonsense, but it won't sound nearly as complicated as yours. What am I going to be oh yeah, this guy ran aggro against my aggro, and the game was over in 15 seconds or so. That doesn't sound that interesting.
I was playing Sudoku, and I put a 4 in a box that already had a 4 and didn't realize it for 5 minutes, and that really screwed me up, so I had to scrap the whole game.
I've never heard somebody say I was playing Sudoku. It's usually I was doing Sudoku,
I was
a crossword
forced to
puzzle.
play Sudoku.
Mom made me play Sudoku in church because I was bored. Actually, that'd be a good place for Sudoku.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Depression Vacation Podcast.
Oh, here he is, hijacking the podcast.
It's now the Ryan Jamboree Fun Time Show.
No, it's beautiful. Welcome back, Ryan.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be back. I feel good.
Our favorite hanger-on that comes so often, I don't even put up a picture graphic for his episodes anymore.
I do come really often.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's still technically the old year as of the recording of this. Yeah. So get all your bad jokes out of the way because next year there'll be more.
My New Year's resolution is to not ejaculate all year.
What?
Oh.
No, you can't do that.
Oh.
You will explode, first of all.
I guess we did just get married.
Oh.
Yeah.
By the way, hey, we're married.
Did you just get it all out of the way in the first month and a half you've been married?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's gone
No,
forever.
hold on. No one has consulted me on this.
I removed my...
Nobody's consulted you.
Oh, my God.
That was such a stretch that I'm almost embarrassed that I said
You should
it.
be almost embarrassed.
Yeah. I'm never exactly embarrassed, but yeah, this is the Depression Vacation Podcast, and not Ryan's ejaculation fun time jamboree hour. I love
you can catch that at 8 p.m. Central on Wednesday nights.
That was very specific, 8 p.m. Central.
Yeah,
so 9 p.m. Eastern time.
What?
Yeah, if it's 8 p.m. Central, it's 9 p.m. our time.
Shit.
7 a.m. Midwestern time for all the, dogs.
I don't know if they
who live in.
Wait,
Kansas.
Are you insinuating that dogs are all on Midwestern time?
Yes.
Actually, it makes sense. Dogs don't know time zones, so that's why they say your dog is more likely to get ornery during daylight savings time because he or she does not know the humans have arbitrarily changed the time and wants to know why he or she is not being fed at the right time or walked at the right time.
Yeah. Well, that's why, for us, we have, we have automatic feeders, and I don't think we ever just adjust them to daylight savings. I think we just kind of let it go so so it doesn't automatically adjust with the daylight savings time.
Yeah. I was just thinking about, this is another generational divide thing, but when you were kids watching TV, did they ever separate the times for you? Be Nickelodeon's Doug is going to be on at 8 p.m., 7 p.m. Central time or something.
All the time on Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, all those things. When I had access to such things, because I didn't always, but.
I wonder if that's a thing of the past at this point. And then I wonder also...
I don't think so.
Because I know they delay things on the West Coast, because that happened to me when I was living in Los Angeles. So I wonder if the West Coast is this is going to take place at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Mountain Time or whatever.
Well, I mean, with the recent, United States settlement of the Western North America, the Louisiana Purchase basically just happened. So I don't see, these small cities like Los Angeles really being as relevant in media sources.
Don't encourage him.
That used to be correct, but just because Los Angeles sort of arbitrarily became the media capital eventually, there was a time still where New York was the key of everything. In fact, I remember when they were doing I Love Lucy, one of the tidbits I liked the best was the reason that they invented the modern sitcom format is that for the honeymooners and stuff like that, they would broadcast it live in high quality on New York time, and then would shuffle a low quality kinescope to the West Coast. And they wanted to shoot in the West Coast, and they're New Yorkers won't stand for a low quality kinescope. They're used to the big thing. And so Desi Arnaz was just okay, fine, we'll shoot it all on film. Then everybody gets it at the best time, best way possible, which was very expensive, but made them very, very rich.
Yeah.
So, but
remember when companies used to spend money to make money? Those were the good old days.
It seems like everything, the finances of TV and film boggle my mind because they're all, I don't even think loss leader is the right way to describe it, but they all lose money. And it's really like, in fact, this has become a big thing with, I don't know if you've read about this, like the implosion of like Max, Disney Plus, and all these streaming services that are hemorrhaging money at this point, is that they stopped. At one point, they were saying that when, like, everybody used to operate like a studio where you would make money, otherwise you were going to be out. But now, thanks to Netflix, all these studios operate like tech firms where the entire point is to lose money and raise your valuation, which I don't still quite 100% understand, but like that's why Amazon and Apple are able to dump so much more money into their shows, and HBO is permanently deleting things they've totally finished and never aired for tax purposes.
Really quick, I don't want to. Damn it! I dropped my pen. I
got it.
It's gone forever.
I don't want to screw up the whole podcast, but I do hear like a humming noise. So maybe we pause and.
Is it gone now?
No.
Is it a bad hum?
I think so. You want to come listen?
Yeah, sure. At this point, we've been recording for 6 minutes. I don't feel like starting over somewhere else.
Okay.
Talk for me.
All right, I'm talking about
Oh, are we
things
still going?
I guess we're still going.
All right, so I tried Kaisa Toppler. Son of a bitch.
Do you hear the hum, Hal? I hear the hum. Oh, okay, then it's
But
fine.
now everybody's going to hear the hum.
Shit. I didn't want to ruin the whole podcast. So just ignore
Too late.
the hum.
We've
guys.
ruined the first podcast of the new year.
Rip
No.
our viewers.
To be honest, like
Viewers.
I
Yeah,
don't know if our
listeners.
viewers will notice this quite as much, but there have been a lot of episodes we recorded in this particular studio where we do occasionally get the hum, and it's always when we bring a guest in. Thanks, Ryan, because it's always mic 2 for whatever reason.
I'm sorry.
I actually don't hear it very much when I play it back on my Alexa. So
Okay.
You just
know.
triggered everybody's robot.
Yeah, but now everybody's going to hear nothing but a hum for this entire episode.
I'm sorry.
How
I should
Ryan
have
and
just not
Shannon
said
talk about the
anything.
hum.
Oh my god.
But yeah,
I
the,
ruined
Bah
it.
humbug.
Sorry.
Humbug indeed. But yeah, the new year is upon us.
Yep.
It will be January 1st, 2024 by the time we publish this episode,
Yep.
even though we're recording it on New Year's Eve. Go
Yep.
us.
Go us. What did we think about 2023, guys? Reviews?
It was the most year of all time.
Yeah, for you guys especially, like the wedding and all
Yeah.
the shenanigans that went with the wedding. Fun story. I was cleaning out my car the other day. This isn't a fun story, Hal. I found my ninja mask from the Autobahn back there from Ryan's bachelor party.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I found a lot of. Here's another funny thing too. Was so the metronome for our VidJam movie, I borrowed without asking from my neighbor, who we had our practice in the other night too. Ryan, he doesn't really care. He's very, very nice to me, and he like.
That was the metronome.
Yeah, it was the metronome.
Oh, that was the metronome. Okay.
Yeah, there's actually 2 of them in there. But here's a funny story. When I returned it to him, it was supposed to have a door on it, and he was like, "Well, wasn't there a door on this?" And I totally gaslit him because I thought that there was only one of them that had a door, and I chose the one that wasn't. But I was cleaning out my car and I found the door.
Oh no!
So
Are
I
you gonna bring it back to him?
Oh yeah, I actually
Oh,
returned
okay,
it to him
good.
this morning. He was like, he was happy it was there.
Yeah.
Do you know how metronomes work?
How metronomes work?
Yeah, well-
you have to wind them up, right?
No,
'Cause-
the little door opens and there's a little goblin that usually lives inside.
so we let the goblin out.
And
since
this dude is insane at keeping time. So
Ryan's on point today.
know.
I mean, we're talking like Ringo Starr level.
It's because he's on his second
It's funny,
coffee.
Ringo Starr is never the person people refer to as excellent timekeepers.
Well, see, here's the thing. He was not like a very good drummer. He didn't play very complicated beats, but he had perfect time.
I have a story that's that's the exact opposite of that you might find interesting, Ryan, that will probably make you hurt, actually,
Oh, boy.
being a music person. So are either of you familiar with the indie rock band from the 90s, Pavement?
No.
It rings a bell.
Pavement was like it was my all-time favorite band, like in my 20s, because it's weird. It's pretentiously unpretentious music is the best way I can describe it. Like, it was basically 5 guys from Stockton, California who didn't really care, and just sort of a lot of their songs they improv lyrics for when they made them up, and they didn't particularly try hard. But then music nuts like me in my 20s absolutely loved them and thought that they were art rock, which they never were and never tried to be. So they're this weird subsect of, it's sort of like Tool has a big disconnect with their fans.
The hum stopped.
But when Pavement was first forming, their drummer, they were all like 19 and 20-year-old kids in Stockton, and their drummer was this 42-year-old ex-hippie who ran a record store in town, so basically the plot of The Rocker with Rainn Wilson. But the hippie guy, Gary Young, was absolutely like a ridiculous human being, as you might expect. Couldn't do anything right. And as their drummer, couldn't stay on rhythm ever. And so rather than dismiss their hippie friend who didn't belong in the band anyway, they hired Bob Nastanovich, who was their tour manager, to be a second drummer specifically to drum to keep Gary Young on time as he was drumming.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Gary Young only lasted one album with the Pavement, and then they actually got a real drummer. But Bob Nastanovich kept being the second drummer, and he said people would come up to him on tour and be like, I don't understand what the point of you being in the band is.
Aw, that's not nice.
But I mean, how ridiculous is it that like you have a bad drummer who can't keep time, and rather than dismiss him, you just hire a second drummer to make sure he's on time?
That I don't think financially I would recommend that for...
You're a dog. I heard you like drummers, so...
Here's two.
So I actually have been doing a lot of journaling over the last couple of days, and I'm pretty proud of myself. And so I was working on some prompts that when Hal was like, I want to talk about New Year's stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, I have stuff for that.
So
Just
many years
write all
of
them?
new.
No, I wrote it on Tuesday, December 26th, Ryan. It's on the page.
So, like, when she was hungover after Christmas. Oh, that was my phone that just went off.
Oh,
Man, this is a bad year
boo,
already, too.
Party foul.
My phone's always on silent,
Podcast
too. That's
foul.
weird.
So it said, so one of the things it said was one word to describe 2023. What would you?
Ooh, wait, do I have to start?
You brought
I
it up,
just
Shannon.
started
you go
on my
first.
left. Oh, okay, well, I said transformational.
Transformation.
Yeah, I could believe that for you.
Yeah. What about you?
I need time to think.
Okay, Hal.
Fucking awful, and it is one word. If you just combine the two words to each
Is
other.
it hyphenated?
No.
Oh.
Just the G runs into the A. Fucking awful.
Musical.
Musical.
Oh,
okay.
that's
We
okay.
actually we did a lot of
Music stuff.
music stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Between an actual musical,
Yeah.
playing in the pit orchestra for a musical.
I forgot about Addams Family because that was like a lifetime ago.
I know. It
I
feels
did
so
too,
long
so
ago.
thanks a lot for
I
that.
think I kind of
That was-
see the year as pre-wedding and post-wedding, which is kind of weird because we got married in November.
Yeah.
And so, like, I feel like it's been a lifetime since before the wedding.
You know, my sister said something similar for her wedding. However, her wedding was the beginning or middle of June, so it was literally smack dab in the middle of the year,
Right.
so that made more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all of the wedding, and your wedding was, by some standards that I've seen, a little bit smaller than some other weddings.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And lower key, and I'm sure that there was still so much garbage.
Oh, my
Garbage
gosh.
is the wrong word. So much
It
stuff
was
you had to
yeah,
do.
it was just stuff. And then like, well, I was talking to Ryan's family about the wedding over the weekend while we were doing Christmas things, and they had nothing but good things to say, and they were just like, it's insane that you put that together yourselves. And I was like, you know, it kind of made me feel good because I did put a lot of work and effort into it, and I felt like it was worth it.
It was
Yeah,
beautiful.
that S is a stretch.
Yeah, I know. They were like, you guys, and I was like,
You guy.
me, Shannon, put in a lot of work. I mean, to Ryan's credit, he did a lot of, he was more involved than some fiancés might be. And like, you know, I felt like he was just as invested in it as I was, but I'm also kind of like a control freak and I tend to take over projects. So at least he's just lucky he had input, to be honest.
I mean, Shan would be like, no, just let me do this. And I'm like, "Oh, fine, I guess. I guess you can just do it.
Yeah, twist his
Should I
arm.
leave you guys alone so you can work this out right now?
No, it's okay. No, I mean, what he's saying is basically that, like, you know, I gave him excuses not to do things, so that's, you know, that's kind of the dream. So
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, the wedding was like, it's. This is gonna happen to me forever. I think of your wedding actually every single day because I drive past the venue
I love
every
that.
single day. And since your
we've
wedding,
cursed Hal.
the thing that was under construction right next to the fire station keeps getting more under construction. So they've removed more trees. So I see the entire wedding venue every single day when I drive in, and I'm like, "Aw, Shannon and Ryan." Now I have to go to work.
I'm
Well, at
glad
least
they
you have
waited
like
for
a-
us to get married.
What for? What?
The construction.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
already so like.
They were doing the construction.
Yeah, I know, but
I still don't know what they're building exactly there, but one of the guys I work with is on the zoning board for Lois Patera, and he said the owner of that lot had originally wanted to put a solar farm in there, and they nixed that idea because it was not, in his words, it was not very well thought out. Like, if you're going to do a solar farm, you should probably think about everything.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I thought your wedding was very nice. To rehash what I probably said a month and a half ago.
Oh,
But,
that's okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was very sweet. I had a great time. Nobody got sloshed, which was...
Yeah.
You have no idea how big of a... I don't know how many weddings you two have been to as adults, but there is always at least 1 to 17 people at an open bar wedding who got absolutely sloshed. And don't ruin things, because everybody's kind of in a mindset of like, oh, Uncle Dave, he just drank too much because he gets emotional at weddings. But it always becomes a thing. So
Yeah, no, I was pretty proud of everybody. I felt like everybody behaved mostly. There were a couple of moments where I wanted to murder my dad, but other than that, we were cool.
Aww.
So
What's funny too is I already texted Shannon about this, but I got into a weird, I won't say argument, but debatical with Karen Kunick on Thursday because she was convinced that Shannon's dad's name was Gary, and I'm like, no, it's Brian. I've met him a bunch of times. I know it's Brian Fields, and she's like, but she always makes jokes about her dad being named Gary, and I'm like, don't know what to tell you. His name is still Brian.
The joke is about the Zodiac killer being named Gary, because that's absurd.
Yeah. And plus, I could see Gary Limoges as a Zodiac killer.
Yeah.
So.
Well, no, but they like actually unmasked the Zodiac killer, and it turns out his name was literally Gary.
Oh, I didn't know that they found the Zodiac killer.
No, it wasn't Gary Limoges.
I knew it.
I knew that they caught the BTK killer and Son of Sam, but I didn't know Zodiac was identified.
Right, I
This
think
must have happened a while ago, and I just missed it.
it was like within the last couple of years, but the thing was that like I think he's already dead, so that's why it wasn't like a huge.
So it wasn't
like,
Ted Cruz either.
No, it wasn't Ted Cruz, as much as he would like to be. So
Honestly, I don't think Ted Cruz has the balls to be a serial killer.
No.
Like he is a. I mean this in the nicest way possible in regards to serial killing, but he's fairly spineless, and he would never, I think, have the heart to actually murder a lot of people.
I think that Ted Cruz, if he were a serial killer, he would be a poisoner. Yeah. I could see him poisoning people and then dismembering them. That would absolutely be within his wheelhouse.
Every time they find a serial killer, everybody's like, oh, he was so nice, or it was not somebody you would expect. Like, John Wayne Gacy's entire story fascinates me because it was so long, and there were so many times where people could have found that he was literally burying people in the crawl space underneath his house.
Oh, yeah. It's wild.
But serial killers in general are interesting things.
Yeah.
Back to New Year's resolutions.
Back to New Year's. So, I mean, I don't know how much you get. So, I did this 15 question prompt of 2023 in review, but we weren't here to talk about.
I kind of want to do this now
2023.
that you've mentioned it because I do have some time at work today. So
The prompt thing?
Yeah.
I'll send you the one that I used. I love Pinterest, by the way. Pinterest is where I find a lot of like my journaling prompts and things like that.
That's cool.
If I don't have an idea of something that I want to write, they have all sorts of shit on there. I think Pinterest is underrated, but that's my opinion. So like for 2024, I don't usually do resolutions, but like I do have like a little bucket list, I guess. But I usually go by like a theme. Like the one year my theme was like focus, and then this past year my theme was self-care. And so I was kind of playing around with the idea of like my theme this year being Toy Story. And it's stupid, but let me tell you.
It's not stupid.
Yeah, it's
So-
kind of stupid.
Shut up, Ryan.
Well,
Go ahead.
there are a couple of quotes from Toy Story, like the various films, that I'm gonna like, keep in mind and like kind of live by. So like to infinity and beyond. So this
That's a
year
good one.
I want to shoot for the moon so that I can land among the stars and that kind of thing and work
So
hard towards my
corny.
goal.
I love it.
Yeah. The other one is you've got a friend in me, so I want to build and deepen personal relationships.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
all nice stuff.
And then I wrote play date with destiny, so taking chances and living life to the fullest. So Toy Story, that's my theme for 2024.
I'm actually looking through because I usually do a Facebook post about what my wants/resolutions are for the year. So I'm trying to cycle through that. But I've already come up with a bunch of things I want to do more in this next year, and the biggest thing is actually like, the biggest one is getting my health back in general, because that's been a miss the last couple of years. And I've gotten off to a relatively good start, I would say, with it. However, the last couple of days I hit a snag with it, so just a reminder that like energy in general can be a tricky thing to make sure you're not overdoing things. And I was actually talking with Lauren about this the other day, because we're exactly the same way in this regard. And she's like, yeah, I feel that way too. But then when I get the motivation to do something, it's kind of like, oh no, I have to do as much as possible before the motivation to do something leaves me again. And I'm like, oh, sister, that's exactly my deal.
Well, and that's something that I'm also taking into this next year. I tend to fail when it comes to things like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym every week or every, whatever, and I'm going to eat my lunch from home every single day and blah, 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 blah. But if I tend to have an all or nothing thinking when it comes to those kind of goals. And so if I miss a day on accident or just because I don't have the energy, in my head, like the whole thing is scrapped. Like I won't be able to bounce back. So I'm trying to get away from that all or nothing thinking and just reminding myself that it's okay to like start something and then pick it back up another time and or start over. Like it's totally okay to hit a bump. My
therapist says this all the time with regards to when I first started seeing him, probably like 6 years ago, something like that. One of the things I had done to sort of like cut down on my drinking was I kept a calendar basically, and I would get a +1 for days I didn't drink and a -1 for days I did, and then I'd have a score at the end of the month that I could compare to other months. And he was like, "Well, it seems like this is a very all or nothing way of mitigating this." And I'm like, well, what would a not all or nothing way of doing it look like? And he was like, I don't know. So
just give yourself points for not drinking, but you don't take away points if you do.
That's a fair thought too.
Yeah, no, I like that.
But it's just like the line of thinking is kind of. I feel the same way, Shannon. Like if I'm ruined if one thing does not go particularly according to plan on any given day. It really knocks me off, which is why something interesting, and this is a Finch goal that I've had set every day, but I almost never do, is I've been, at least the last week, making my bed every single morning, which, is, I don't know why it's something I never do, but it makes me feel a lot better when I get home at night and my room is at least like marginally put together because I have a bed that's put together. I'm finally almost to what my resolutions were from last year. So
I thought you were just scrolling this one.
No, just going like mad to try to get all the way back to January 1st, 2020.
Oof.
Yeah.
Ryan, do you have any themes or resolutions for this year?
My motto this coming year, tomorrow, is more composing, less smoking.
Okay.
Do you smoke?
That bud.
I did not know that about you.
Kush.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm trying to do less of it. So. No, it's weird though, because like I'm constantly like, man, I should smoke less, and then when I do, I'm just like, well.
Yeah. Well, and I think something you had a huge focus on in 2023 is moderation. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, and. Whenever we talk about moderation, usually we go right to substances, whether that's alcohol, smoking, but that can apply to life just in general.
Can apply to relationships or spending time with people.
Yeah. Video games. If I'm gonna be like, well, I want to moderate how many video games I play. That's equally as valuable, but kind of takes away from the mold of what you think of moderation is.
I feel like people get confused between like moderation and restriction.
Yeah.
And they feel like when you say to moderate something, it's like, oh, you really mean don't do it at all. But it really is about staying away from that all or nothing thinking that we were talking about.
Yeah, there was I don't think my therapist said this to me. I think I've just read this independently someplace like years ago. It was saying that like if you're trying to drink less or smoke less, instead of like telling yourself, oh, I can't do this because I'm trying to cut back, actively tell yourself is like, I don't do this. Like, I don't smoke that much anymore, because it makes you feel more powerful. It makes you feel like you have a choice, and it's a positive connotation as opposed to the restrictions that you'd place on yourself by saying, I can't smoke more.
Or even make
that
it
worked for a little bit for me.
Yeah, or even make it like conditional. It's like, it's not that you can't do this. It's like, okay, I can have a drink when. So like last night when we came home with our groceries, we had bought ice cream. And
no, we never did eat that.
we never did eat it, but, which is key, because what I had said was
ice cream.
That was the whole reason we went shopping.
I know that was the whole reason we went shopping, but here's the other thing is like, do you remember when we came home and I was putting my shoes away? I was like, I should really put my shoes away, and you were like, yeah, and then I was like, oh, and after I put my shoes away, I can have ice cream. And he was like, okay. And that's why we never had ice cream, because I put my shoes away this morning, but also because we forgot. But it's like one of those things, is like, by kind of conditioning it for yourself, like, it's better than saying like, oh, you can't have it. It's saying like, lump it. And I think in ADHD circles, it's called like, incentive lumping or task lumping.
Yeah.
Like doing something that you don't want to do, but marrying it with something you do want to do. So I tend to do that a lot. So
That's cool.
I mean, like, I've just called it like a reward when I do it for myself. Sometimes it works.
Yeah, no, and see, that's the thing too, is like, if it works sometimes, great. It doesn't have to work all the time, but I feel like we feel like it does.
I'm not sure how much this is related, but like, I always enjoy my like doing the dishes, my strategy for that, because let me tell you, we don't have a dishwasher.
It's tough to do the dishes,
when you
guys.
get a house, make sure you get a dishwasher.
Oh yeah,
like,
that's
that was
top list.
The
top
fact
of the list.
that I have a dishwasher, and like my old apartment in Midtown had a dishwasher that never worked from the day I moved in, and this house had a beautiful one that also dries the dishes. Wow! It is like, it turned what was a chore I absolutely hated that took like half an hour into something where I really just have to empty my sink whenever I'm doing dishes, and it's so much better.
And now it's so much fun.
Fun is a strong word, but I do have an Echo Show in my kitchen, so I can watch things as I'm loading my dishwasher.
So anyway, my strategy is I look at the dishes and I say, "Oh God," and then I do something else. But then, but then I go back and I say, "Okay." I strap up my pants, and because usually I'm not wearing pants at home, and I go up to the sink,
brother, same.
and I put away one dish from the dish drainer, and that's it. And then I see how I feel. And like 9 times out of 10, I just kind of keep going.
Yeah, doing just one of the, like, yeah, I do that all the time. It's like when I have to do something hard. And with ADHD too, that's something that, so I'm part of this ADHD group on Facebook, and somebody posted about having difficulty because, and this is something that a lot of people, including me, with ADHD struggle with, is writing out checks and sending them in the mail.
Yes.
And
that's why my bills are on auto pay.
Right. So, but a lot of people don't recognize that with ADHD, the way we see that is, it's not just, write a check, send it in the mail. It's find the checks, pull out a check, write the check, find an envelope, put it in the envelope, forget that you don't know what address to send it to, pull it out of the envelope. Like, for us, it's a lot of different little tasks that add up. And I struggle with this for things like in the showering, like because it's not just taking a shower, it's undressing, it's going in, it's shampooing, it's washing my body. It's not one task. And so usually once I start to break it down and just say, okay, all I have to do is take off my clothes, and then usually, just kind of take it one little step at a time.
Yeah, on that note, I forgot to shower today, I just realized. Now there are showers here. I can shower before.
Oh, stinky.
No, he's not stinky. We didn't even notice. You wouldn't, if you hadn't said anything, you wouldn't have said anything.
It kind of, whenever I get in a situation like this, I remember there was an early Family Guy episode where I forget what the situation was, but Peter goes to Brian. He's like, "You want to know something? I haven't brushed my teeth in 3 days, and nobody has said anything to me." And I always think about that. I'm like, I wonder if that happened, if people would notice for probably 3 days. But
well, it's also not even about people noticing. It's like, do they have the balls to say something to you?
Yeah, it's also like something I want to focus more on this year in general, which my resolutions sort of tie into, is just doing things more for my own self-respect, which I Like, that's part of the making the bed thing. And even though, like, people may not notice if you're stinky, it's good to take a shower every day just for your own self-respect. Wow, Hal, this means you're probably not respecting yourself very much right now.
Oh, but that's okay.
But,
that's that all or nothing thinking again. Because,
it's sort of like, I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, but have you watched The Bear at all?
No, but I've heard of it.
There's an episode which... all the episodes are pretty good, but there were at least 2 episodes in the most recent season that were really, like, really good. And one of them, I think, almost works as a short film. You don't really even need to know the situation. And it's like the guy who plays the cousin, Eben Moss, on the show is sort of sent away to the best restaurant in Chicago and possibly in the world as what he views as a punishment for getting in everybody's way. But in reality, his cousin is sending him there to see how, like, they do things in the best restaurant to try to, like, show him how he should be doing things. And they put him on fork duty, where he does nothing but dry forks all day, which drives him crazy because he's used to being a cook and, like, running things in a restaurant. And so he doesn't really care about it. And the lesson of the episode is, like, whatever you do to respect yourself, you should try to do it the best. Like, don't smudge the forks. If that's what you're here to do, just do that. And he sort of learns the power of self-respect a little bit through that episode. And that's kind of what I want to do a little bit more this year, is just, like, find ways to respect myself and respect my own time. Like, cooking is something I've gotten better at, with respecting my time and self. So hopefully... Anyway, I had to cycle through twice because I put my phone to sleep, and then it took me all the way back to the top of my Facebook timeline, and it just did it again. But I was smart this time and took screen caps of the actual thing.
There we go.
So this was actually, I didn't actually write resolutions for last year. I wrote down what I was grateful for. I'm grateful that I bought a beautiful house in 2022, can now play music, shoot movies, host improv practices, and generally just be loud at will. I'm glad I do have outlets to do stand-up, have a great group of friends to do comedy and shoot the shit with, the ability to do some fantastic improv with fantastic and talented people. My podcast, I started with one of my best friends. Aw. It serves as a great catharsis every week for both things depressing and happy. VidJam and the talented people who keep making movies there. Also the fantastic new filmmakers I met this year and will continue to meet next year. That was true, because I met a lot of also new people from there. My core group of heart friends who are supportive and fun and like generally just hanging out with me and also challenge me to be a better person. My job, which I love, is both interesting and occasionally challenging in good ways. The means to finally be on anti-anxiety medication to see how it's helped in my daily life. And most importantly, a healthy relationship with someone who compliments me well, is supportive, and is just super compatible with my specific brand of weirdness. I've got great feelings and optimism for 2023. Wow, that didn't age well. And I'm in a good enough place I feel I don't need the need for any resolutions, maybe to lose 10 pounds. Wow, that also didn't age well. But overall, I thought that was kind of an interesting...
Yeah.
I was in a good mood at New Year's last year. What happened over the year?
Maybe that's what you need to do again, is sit down and make a list of the good things. Because, if you're walking away from this year and feeling that it was fucking awful, it might be nice to pick out the things you want to take with you to 2024 and the things you want to leave in 2023.
Honestly, it's probably about the same thing. And I don't know if Wallace talked about this on the podcast or if this was a private conversation I had with him. Sorry, Wallace. But a while ago, he was saying to me in some way, shape, or form that, like, I shouldn't get hung up too much on the things that, like, are stressing me out and not contributing, like health, for instance. Like, there's only so much you can do for that and weight gain.
I think he did talk about this on the podcast with us.
I can't discern real conversations from podcast conversations
They
anymore.
are still real conversations.
But he was saying, too, just like, try to focus on the good. And honestly, if I was to do a list of the things I was grateful for 2023, it would probably be almost exactly the same list as that.
Yeah.
Like, I still get to do a podcast with one of my dearest friends. I still have a lot of very good friends who've only grown over the last year as I've met new people. Still have VidJam, stand-up, and improv. Still have a good relationship. Still have a house for now. So,
yeah. I would say I have some things on, like, my bucket list. So, like, the biggest thing for us this year is going to be we're going to start looking for a house and hopefully buy a house. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty intense and big, and we're excited for that.
I'm hearing interest rates might actually drop in the next year,
that's
too,
what
which
we're
would be
hearing.
helpful.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing. Looking forward to that process, and something that I want to focus on in 2024 along with this process is this idea of, like, being present and being in the moment rather than waiting for the next thing to happen. That was something we were practicing on our cruise. Like, we're not waiting for anything. We're living these times together, like trying not to feel like we're constantly waiting for something, that
like
we're just
that.
living life and enjoying each other's company and that kind of thing.
Aw.
Yeah. For my career, I really want to nail my sales this year and my branch's sales. I have big plans for my team, and I'm excited to try and make that happen. So I want to really shine in this position and do good stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I decided, so I read 60 books this year.
I saw that. That was
That
impressive.
was insane. And I was looking through a lot of them, and I was like, some of these were real duds.
It's funny because I
And-
remember you mentioning specific, like I only saw this on your like Facebook post about it, but I remember you talking about Jeanette McCurdy's "I'm Glad My Mom Died" on the
Yes,
podcast
I
earlier
loved
this year because I loved the title of that book.
Right. Well, and it stayed with me throughout the whole year as one of my favorite reads of the year. I would say that was probably in my top 5 this year. Like I said in my post, The Priory of the Orange Tree was my overall favorite. It was 800 pages. I read it during our cruise. I finished it front to bottom during our cruise.
That's some sweet reading skills.
Yeah. So I was like, dragons and lesbians, count me in. I love this.
Lesbian dragons. What?
Well, no, dragons and well, they might have been lesbian dragons. I don't know, but it was a really good book. Read a lot of Stephen King this year, and of course, I
saw
love
Fairy
him.
Tale and the Kennedy one were on your list.
Also, I read Revival and The Mist, and I read a lot of Stephen. That didn't even make it into the recap.
Yeah,
Post.
because I think Fairy Tale and 2263 are the two I noticed because I have both of those on my bookshelf and haven't read them.
Yeah,
and
they're really good.
Counterpoint to what you said, I read 0 books this year, which is something that I have been changing lately is like rather than just watching, because I know watching TV until you fall asleep is like one of the worst things you can do for your sleep health. I've now been just reading for like 40 minutes to an hour before bed the last, again, 4 days, but trying to make it a habit. And I picked up Fire and Blood, which has also been on my bookshelf for like 3 years, and finally started reading that. So it's been pretty good so far. That's one of the things I want to get back into for healthy habits is just reading before bed instead of playing video games. And,
I try to do the same thing. I don't always do a good job, but that's okay because it's not all or nothing.
Yeah, that's something we really have to. I'm glad Ryan was the one who brought that up, right?
The all or nothing thing?
Yeah.
No, it was me, and I keep saying it because
Damn it,
I
Hal,
love
don't
it
give
so
Ryan
much.
credit for things that Shannon thought of. But I think that's the point of me saying this was I thought this was a really good point. And it's something I struggle with so much is like...
Every day is brand new, and it's not dependent on what you did the day before.
Yeah, not to horrify you too much, but a lot of people have said that mantra is part of what made Donald Trump into a monster, essentially, was that his dad, among the other horrible things he did as a horrible man, raising children who also became horrible, was that he instilled this notion in them that the people are either winners or losers and there's nothing in between, which is funny because he's become one of the biggest losers in the world ascribing to this thing, but weirdly enough is successful at it at the same time because nothing makes sense. It's like 2 + 2 = fish.
Yeah, so my goal this year was 30 books, and so obviously I doubled it. I think I'm going to walk into 2024 with my number in mind being like 40. Because I mean, I read like a monster this year, and I just don't want to give myself unrealistic expectations of doing the same thing. I think, and my best friend and I, we're going to be starting our own little book club. It's more like going to be like accountability buddies of like we're reading the same book at the same time and we want to talk about it and that kind of thing. So we picked 5 books each that we'll be reading over the course of the year. And for Christmas, she made us these 2 sweaters that say Fields and Ward Book Club.
Aww.
And it was the cutest thing in the whole wide world, and I love her so much.
I think that's a good idea, having a goal of books to read every year. So.
But not like, and like I said, so if you had asked Shannon 2 years ago, it's like, hey, you read 60 books last year. What's your goal going to be? I'd be the overachiever that would be like, I'm going to read 70 books this year. So I really wanted to make sure that I managed my expectations and didn't give myself an unrealistic goal.
What was the word? What was the phrase we were using before? Like that Ryan was talking about moderation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tied with Hal with books.
Woohoo! Book brothers. High five!
You guys should have your own anti-book club.
I mean, it's just called men sitting around drinking beer and talking about the game.
Yeah.
I think for this year, like, I don't have a goal in mind, but I feel like off the top of my tongue, just as you were saying that, like 20 might not be the worst idea, because roughly like a book and some change a month that way. It's something I really like. My dad actually. Man, this is hard to admit that my dad is right about something, but he was telling, like, my dad is a very avid reader, and I actually used to be a super avid reader, and he mentioned to me, because everything he mentions is hypercritical. He's like, what happened to you, Hal? You used to read all the time. Now you don't read anything, and he's 100% correct. But the good thing about that is I do have, like, tons of books on my shelf that I've been wanting to read for a while, and when I decided to just pick up a book and start reading before bed, I had a lot of interesting ones on there, that I have at least like 7 books I want to read on that shelf, so that'll be a good start to getting back to it. Like, next I want to read The Terror, which I bought like 5 years ago and never read. I also never finished the Throne of Glass series. I made it like halfway through the last book and then lost interest somehow after 6 previous books that are like 800 pages each.
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to do this year was try reading books that I've carried with me for over 10 years that I've never read. And so it's been a really great experience of like picking up those books, reading the first few pages and being like, this is absolute trash, and finally getting it out of my house.
Yeah.
So Ryan has very much enjoyed that process. We're down to one bookshelf with books not like shelf, but like one bookcase that we're down to. It was 2 full bookcases that were doubled up, like each shelf had 2 rows of books on it. I think when I counted it at one point, I had over 400 books in my apartment, and it is too small of an apartment to have 400 books.
Well, once you get, the interesting thing is like, I had one bookshelf, I want to say, in my old apartment, which was a nice bookshelf. And it was like full to the brim to the point where I had to put like books on top of it as like, additional stuff. And there were still some hanging around the house too. Now that I have a house, I have also because my den had a gigantic bookshelf built into the wall, which I cannot fill with all of my, like I have a completely blank bookshelf in my office at this point. I think I have another one somewhere in the house that I never used either. And, just like it's become the board game / whatever bookcase.
Yeah.
So, but that's when you get a house, it'll be a little bit different. It's nice, but it's also kind of intimidating that finally you have room for all of your stuff, but then you realize you don't have enough stuff to fill all the room.
Yeah.
And this was something I remember. It came up like my parents. Have you ever been to my parents' house before?
Yeah.
It is they have a lot of stuff. It is very cluttered everywhere. And last year for Christmas, my brother-in-law Steve transcribed a lot of our home movies to like totally digital. And one of the things I noticed about their house, like when we were like, I was maybe 6, Kathy was 4, and Christy was like 2-ish. The house was pretty empty, honestly. Like the living room had 1 small couch, 2 small armchairs, like 1 TV like in the way back, and that was pretty much it. Like, and that kind of made me think, because I was a new homeowner at that point, it's like, oh yeah, I guess a lot of the things that you get in your house that make it stuffy are things that you accumulate over the courses of years. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Not me.
You're a good person to be married to then, Ryan. That's also why, because Christmas just happened, it's why I hate getting gifts usually, is because I don't want to accumulate space junk.
I'm just like, I haven't used this in a week. Better get rid of it.
That's how my ex was, actually. She was and this is something there were a lot of things, obviously, I admired about her, but the one thing I liked was she was very good at getting rid of junk in the house. Like, there was about a weekly trip to Goodwill, almost, where, like, old clothes, old toys that nobody played with anymore, books, or sometimes furniture would just be gone out of the house.
Yeah.
Whereas I can't throw away a piece of paper that I found that I had an attachment to 2 weeks ago.
This is a really cool stick.
Ryan's given me the side eye because that's exactly how I am. I struggle with like, but they gave it to me and that kind of thing.
Like I remember with this ex particularly, the one, like I never really tried to dissuade her necessarily from getting rid of things, but there was one thing that I can like sort of convinced her to, because there was this kind of cute little like kid table that was arranged like a city with like tracks and everything that I think her uncle had built for the boys, and she was gonna like give it away to Goodwill, and I'm like, he built this for you guys, you don't want to keep it at all, and that was like one thing that she did keep. But also the other side of the coin is my parents, with so much like a couple weeks ago, they sent me up to their attic is a disaster, and nobody goes there anymore because they threw way too much stuff up there 20 years ago and then just abandoned it, essentially. And I was supposed to close a window that had popped open up there for them, and I couldn't get to it because all of this junk from like 20 to 30 years ago was, I saw toys that I had as a child up there that I didn't know existed anymore. It's scary. There's an armchair up there that is very, very discolored, Shannon.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I believe it. My grandmother was born in the 30s, and so she grew up with this mentality that her parents had, which was that they had to keep everything.
Yeah.
And so when she passed away, and then, I mean, we went to go clean out their house, and it wasn't a full clean out because my grandfather was still living there, but there was, and then when he passed away, like, I don't know how they fit so much shit into this house.
Yeah.
Like down in the basement, there were 3 freezers, like full-size freezers full of frozen food.
Okay.
That from over the years. Just like, I mean, and it was anything. It was meat. It was like old cakes. It was
cake.
Yeah, just like a whole bunch of shit. And then they had a whole wall that was shelves and just tons of canned food. Just like they were getting ready for the apocalypse kind of canned food.
Yeah.
And it was very like very much like a Depression era kind of like, we might have to be self-sufficient for a while and the government's going to restrict our sugar or something.
Yeah, this is like the mindset of like Depression era people, which my parents, again, their parents were raised in the Depression, so I understand that. But we're in late stage capitalism at this point where so much stuff is so available, so cheap, and is also going to break because they need it to break, so you buy more stuff.
Right.
So there's just like so much of the stuff in my parents' house is broken. It kind of makes me think of a Simpsons episode where Homer goes to the town dump and he's like, well, it's a perfectly good basketball half. I'm definitely bringing this home with me.
Yeah. No, so, I mean, going from that mentality to like having Ryan in the house that he's just like, why do we have this? I'm like, well, we might use it. And he's just like, why would we need this? And then I come up with some obscure reason why we might need it. But sometimes he comes to me and he'll be like, I need XYZ. And I'll be like, yeah, we have one. And he's like, no, I threw it away. And I'm like, my brother in Christ, I am going to lose my shit.
It's a good point, though. Like, I think about this in terms of, like, the management books I read for, like, business school, were sort of in the vein of like, if you are a manager and you have a rule that if it's challenged by one of your employees, if you can't think of a good defensible reason for doing it, perhaps you should rethink doing it. And I think that works with items too. Like if you can't think of a defensible, well-reasoned reason that you might need this thing, perhaps it's time to get rid of it.
Well, that just happened this morning. I was putting my shoes away, and
Did Ryan throw away your shoes?
No, behind the door in our bathroom, we've had it. You keep your filthy mitts off my shoes.
I didn't say anything.
And so behind our bathroom door, we've had this. It's something you can hang clothes on. You know that one that kind of looks like a triangles.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You know, you pull it and. So I pulled it out and I was like, I don't remember the last time I used this. And I brought it out to the living room on our way out of the house this morning. I was like, should we get rid of this? And he was like, oh, I just used that the other week. And I was like, okay, but should we get rid of it? And he is like, and I was like, this is a weird situation because usually he's the one trying to get me to get rid of things. And I was like, do you want it or not? I know. I was like, do you want it or not? And he was like, no, you can throw it away. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
You needed permission to throw something away.
Oh, he needs permission to throw things away. We had to come up with a rule because I would come home and there would be things that I'd look for that were just gone. And so I told Ryan now is allowed to clean things, but if there's anything he wants to throw away, he has to put it in a pile for me to go through when I get home to determine whether or not it needs to be thrown away.
My parents had a similar system for a while, and actually my mom does this all the time where she will just pack up things and throw them away sneakily, and guess who never notices?
Okay, well, I notice.
Well, you have an apartment. They have a giant house full of junk.
And
so
like 99% of the stuff, you're like, yeah, this can go. I mean, sometimes it takes a little encouraging. But,
yeah.
But you never know when, there's that little
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're just like, Ryan, we can't get rid of this.
Well,
and I'm like, Shannon, that is half of a banana peel.
There's a downside.
It's not that bad.
It can be a double downside too, because I was just thinking about this. My sister's boyfriend Max was looking for a couple of old video games a couple of weeks ago, specifically like various versions of the Metal Gear Solid games for different systems. And because I don't throw things away, I had both of the ones he was looking for. Could only find one because the GameCube one that I'm sure I have someplace is lost in junk in either my basement or my parents' house, and no amount of searching, I just can't find it anywhere. So I know that I kept it. I just don't have it organized to the point where I could give it to him. So
Yeah.
anyway, we have about like 10 or 15-ish minutes left.
Well,
so
speaking of improv, did you guys last week get to talk about what happened at HIT?
Yeah, we did.
In fact,
yeah.
Juan was the guest.
Oh yeah.
So Juan was the person actually dealing with it. It was interesting because just to recap for everybody, for
in case
Ryan's
you missed the last episode.
Ryan's first solo show, it seems like disasters always befall you during the 2 shows that you've done so far.
Yeah.
The piano collapsing and then like homeless man tripping and hitting his head twice and bleeding. That was the I think I told I don't know if you were backstage when I was telling people this afterwards, but I was like, for anybody who felt like they were lost during that show and that show didn't really follow the prompts at all, this is a free pass because there was a disaster in the audience where
Yeah.
2/3 of the audience left at one point, which was another thing Juan was kind of irritated about because he said that it got to a point where there were way too many cooks in the kitchen just dealing with one drunk homeless guy. And he said it was more people just wanted to be a part of something rather than help the guy, which I kind of got that impression too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we did not need 7 people.
I mean,
And-
once he left, we were like, well, there goes our audience.
Yeah.
So I have this really bad habit that Ryan and I talk about all the time where I tend to take charge in situations. And
Just like right now.
Yes. Well, no, but like I want to point out, because you didn't listen to last week's episode, I was saying to...
Just last week I missed it.
He never listens. It's okay.
I said to Juan, I was like, that would be kind of a situation where I would feel instinctually like I need to help and be involved and that kind of thing. But I really, in that moment, was like, no, I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm just going to sit here and let other people handle it. And I did. And I was very good about it, and Juan was like, that was the right choice. And I was just thinking, Ryan should be aware of this because he often thinks that I get too involved
I'm
in
very
things.
proud of you.
I think it's a human response to want to be want to be helpful to your fellow human beings, but also in this case, I think Juan hit it on the head when he said it was more people just wanting to be a part of something because, like, I don't know. It was an interesting thing going on in a show, but also on some level that's a bit disrespectful to the people on stage because you're saying it's like, oh, your show is so disinteresting. I'd rather be the 6th person helping this homeless person
Yeah.
out of the theater.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was a thing.
That was a thing.
Let's hope next show goes better. But
Yeah,
I'm sure it will.
I was playing this like kind of roundabout repeated thing as a lead in to the final number. And so there wasn't a great entrance point, I realized, and Ben was just like, eventually I'm going to start singing, don't worry guys.
yeah, it's something we do need to work on with offbeats is and this has happened to me a bunch of times too as the accompanist, is that people will not sometimes start singing when they're supposed to sing. Like, there was at least one song for the entirety of that show where it was just people still talking the whole time.
Yeah.
And, like, the lead-in has to be, like, you can't keep the accompanist hanging for too long because poor Ryan was playing, like, the same thing for, like, 5 minutes over and over and over
Like, I
again.
hope
And
someone starts singing again soon.
somebody do something.
Yeah. No, that was a tough show, but I give you guys props for staying mostly like engaged and
That's
just
kinda-
the show must go on.
The hit shows are fun because it's usually a good audience of people, but like especially when it wasn't a totally full show like it was last time, they're kind of like practice shows at that point especially since we have Steel Stacks coming up in 4 weeks.
Stacks.
Yeah.
Plug.
But anyway, since we only have 10 minutes ish left, I did
You
want
said
to talk.
that 10 minutes ago.
I know, but then we started talking about this.
What do you
I do want to talk about resolutions for this
Yes.
year because we did get off track on that a little
Well,
bit.
I already shared mine. So
I shared mine.
Well, at some point, yeah, because I just read my list of gratitudes from last year. Stupid Hal. One of the things I definitely want to do more this year is spend time with like people I care about a lot.
Yeah.
Like I don't really just casually spend time with friends anymore. Like we always have to be doing something. And that was something I was telling Karen, for instance, like because like the only time I see her basically is when I go to open mic. I'm like, we should just do stuff more often and just hang out more. And I said that to a couple of my friends this year. So hopefully, have not said it to Wallace yet, but Wallace is somebody I also want to be like, because Wallace, I mean, again, this was before he was dating Josh, but like he and I used to take like 1 to 2 hour walks like once or once every 2 weeks, where we just sort of shoot the shit, hang out, and spend time together. And I kind of miss doing that with not just him, but friends in general, like just having a friend over to hang out, talk, and not have to do anything in particular. So I want to do that more. I want to get the health more in order. And also I kind of want to do more of like get my YouTube channel into more producing like just general content. Like one of the things I like to waste time with on YouTube is just watching retrospective videos of my favorite 16-bit video games. And I was kind of like, as I've been watching these for the last like year and a half, just regurgitating the same information because I'm entertained by talking about my favorite games from when I was 12. I was like, I know all these things. I could probably do this in exactly the same manner and get like 100,000 views a video. So I think I'm going to try to do something like that. And basically I want to find things to constructively take up my time so that I don't like waste time, I don't do nothing, and more importantly, like I don't drink if I'm bored or something like that. So
yeah, I definitely want to spend a lot of time, or I told Ryan that I don't want to have such a busy schedule this year. Like I want to be able to spend time at home and read and do things that I like to do, play video games, that kind of thing, and not feel like I'm running from one thing to the next. And then I actually just had my first appointment with my new therapist yesterday.
Yay! Good job, Shannon.
Yeah. So I was working with the same therapist for about 2 years, more than that, and felt it was time. First of all, BetterHelp got too expensive, and this new place takes my insurance. So take that, capitalism. And but had the first session yesterday, and I felt like it went really well. And I think it's going to be really helpful this time around too, because when I had first started things with my last therapist, I had said like I have a hard boundary about like talking too much about my past or like talking about my mom. And really I was utilizing that therapy as just trying to get through the day to day and like navigating what I'm going through now. So I want to unpack some emotions with this new therapist. Want to start grieving like my childhood and things like that, and like learn to get back in touch with my emotions. So that'll be good.
Those are good things, I think. Like,
yeah,
it's excellent. Like, it's a good time of year to just sort of be like, I want this to change for next year. And I've sort of been toying with the idea too. Like, I've been like after having a good like 3 days last week, I've been in the midst of like a 3-day funk where I just feel very, very like down about everything. And I've kind of been wondering, like in the vein of just doing nice things for myself, I have to work this weekend or today since it's just Sunday, and then I have to work New Year's Day, but then I have 2 days off in the middle of the week. So I've been debating, it's just like, you know, maybe find a getaway to do for an overnight or something, like just do something nice for yourself someplace. So
we'll play Contested Realms.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know if I'll actually do it or not, but the idea is kind of intriguing to me. So I might look up where's a cheap place to go on hotels.com today. So
yeah.
But yeah, being more present I think is a good thing too, because a lot of times we're looking at our phones or doing stuff like that. Although interestingly enough, I'm always present at like shows and things like that. Like if I'm there for stand-up, I'm going to watch all 41 people do stand-up that night with a few bathroom breaks, which I probably shouldn't do as much. But yeah, same with improv and things like that. Like, yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this year.
Yeah.
The health is the most tantamount thing, which would be nice to get that back. But if not, suicide is always an option.
Oh my God, how?
That was a bad joke to make. Oh,
I
thought it was funny.
No.
Oh my, it was, but like, goddamn.
Was it funny? I don't know. I don't feel like I should be saying that on a
depression video.
Yeah, I don't think that was a good joke. I'd take it back. I'm not going to edit it out. Just so
As an
people-
official public statement of Depression Vacation Podcast, suicide is in fact not an option.
No,
And
it is not. That was a
Harold
very
has
bad
been
thing to
canceled.
say. I actually feel guilty about saying that, but this is kind of the pratfall with improv brain sometimes.
That's okay.
Do
Is
you
that
want
like
me to do like a dub over of me saying it instead?
there has been one time for Depression Vacation Podcast that we've edited out one person's comment, and it was a very innocuous comment, I want to say, that they were just worried somebody who isn't even going to listen to the podcast might take the wrong way. I just want to stress that because I'm not going to say what it was or who it was, but it was like very innocuous, which also drives home the point that sometimes what you think is like a major thing that you're stressing about is like a nothing burger to the rest of the world. So it's tough to put things in perspective from your own brain. But point being that comment is going to be left in here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think here's the thing that I want everyone in this room and everyone who's listening. I just want to say that, in 2024, I feel like for a lot of us in general as the population, we've decided that, time is arbitrary and New Year's resolutions don't make any sense because the world doesn't care about our arbitrary notions of time. But who gives a fuck? Just make your resolutions.
Time is a flat circle.
Well, it's like, don't be so cynical. Go into the next year and do the stupid shit. Like, do the cliche shit.
I mean, you only live once.
Well, that's the thing.
Theoretically, yeah.
That's something I learned during my wedding. At first we were like, well, we're not going to do favors because it's cliche and nobody likes them. And I was like, you know what? No, I want to do the favors because it's fun.
My favor is still on my desk at work, actually.
Yeah, see?
I found it when I was cleaning out my car.
Yeah. So I just want everyone in 2024 to know that, first of all, do the things that make you happy and don't feel guilty for those things. Don't over analyze or judge yourself for what you choose to do with your time and who you choose to spend time with. And I hope that everyone gives themselves a lot of grace this year and just are good humans and good things happen to you.
Well said, Shannon. I can't really add anything to that. Also because I have to go to work and we have to end this podcast. But
God bless your new year.
Yeah, everyone. Yeah, and hopefully Depression Vacation Podcast will be back next year at this time, as Hal's like, man, I whiffed on all these resolutions. I didn't do any of this stuff again. But yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. We love you all. And as Shannon said, try not to be too cynical in the next year. It's very easy with the way the world is and how we all feel about ourselves in general. But, I feel like the less cynical you are, the more you embrace the dumb stuff, the happier you can potentially be.
And the easier it will be to find joy.
Yeah. So Happy New Year. Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Suicide is not an option.
Yes.
Everyone, farewell.